you're, back to you.
Yes.
So to me, your 3 clubs, I mean, mine, if I redouble, that says the exact same thing as 3 clubs without telling the opponents anything, and then they have to guess what to bid. the next
Yeah,
person,
that,
right?
that's true. Now, so that is an accurate statement. But remember also that, and again, this would be perhaps something if you wanted to play your normal systems on here, and inverted minors was your normal system. Remember, whatever you're not telling the opponents, you're also not telling your partner, right?
Oh.
Remember, your partner and the opponents are all, they're all in the same audience as far as what they find out about your hand, right? So anything you convey to your partner gets conveyed to the opponents. Anything that you don't tell your partner, you don't tell your opponents. But I think it's okay for a redouble. I think it's okay to have a little ambiguity with redouble, because you are going to get another chance to bid, and you're going to get to say something about your hand, and your partner knows that you have at least invitational values. The other benefit to redouble, by the way, you haven't eaten up any bidding space, right?
Right.
You can say something about your hand without taking up any bidding space. So, yeah, there are benefits in there too.
Is the redouble forcing?
Well, it's not forcing, because because and this reminds me of a story, but so normally what happens here is that this person takes a preference, right? Once the redouble happens, it's like, well, this person normally should bid something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
And has
because their partner has doubled, and they have to say, they got to say, and when you make a free bid here, whether it's a diamond, a heart, a spade, even with a really bad hand, you've got to take your preference, right? You've got to tell your partner, the takeout doubler, where we can play if we have to play this thing. Where's our best fit, even though it may not be our hand. And so when there's a redouble, if this person passes, they're not saying anything about whether their hand is any good or not. All they're saying is, I have no preference, partner, you pick the suit. Right?
Oh.
Like if you had, if you had, well, so the hand where it ends up being tricky, like let's say this person here has 4 clubs and they're 3-3-3, and diamonds, hearts, and spades, right? Well, that stinks, right? Your only 4-card suit is the suit the opponent's open, and you're not going to play there, right?
Right.
So with that hand, you pass, and you basically say, partner, you pick the suit, because I have no preference. My only long suit is the suit the opponent's bid. So.
Okay.
But.
Can I check class baseline? So for us, inverted minors are off with a double. And what does the three of the minor mean?
Week,
It is weak, okay.
Okay.
2 to 5 points.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
yes. So that's a good question to ask. Just guiding kind of everything that we do. Would you all typically play jump raises of partner suit in competition as weak?
Yes.
Okay. If that is what is standard, then I would say stick with that. Have 1 club double, 3 clubs, or for that matter, 1 club, 1 spade, 3 clubs, whether it's a suit, whether it's a double. Have all of your jump raises just continue to be weak for the sake of consistency. And for the time being, if you have a hand that wanted to make a limit raise in clubs, just start with redouble, planning on showing clubs at your next turn to bid. And that will get you by most of your hands, I think, just fine. So while we're on the topic of interference, let's look at that as it relates to inverted minors. Are inverted minors on when there has been a suit overcall? So again, let's ask ourselves. Let's say they overcall a spade. What's 2 clubs? What's 3 clubs? Well, you probably see what path I'm going down here. If I said inverted minors is off over a double, which doesn't even eat up any bidding space,
Then it's all
it should be
fair,
off
too.
over an overcall. I'm definitely more adamant that inverted minors is off here. I can see a case for it being on over double, as Joanne asked. It wouldn't be such a bad thing. Definitely should not be on after a suit overcall. I occasionally see somebody play it this way at the club, and I think it's a huge mistake. 2 clubs should be a normal raise, like we talked about, 6 to 9 with club support. 3 clubs should be weak, presumably 0 to 5 with a bunch of clubs. And ultimately, why should inverted minors be off here? And think about this in terms of hands that responder would pick up that would be invitational or better. What can you do?
Cupid.
Thank you, Cupid. Never forget the Cupid. You know, I really like this thing, but it was not designed to stay on this tray. Because I spend more time picking it up off the floor. But I like it better than the regular Racer.
Stop 1 minute, 'cause I got confused. So on this thing, the inverted minors are off, which means if I say 2 clubs, it's 6 to 9. If I say 3 clubs, it's 10 plus, correct?
So the jump raise is weak, right? That sounds like that. That's your baseline agreement about jump raises.
So it's 0 to 5.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I just pass if I had 0?
Well, if you don't, you will if you don't have a fit with partner.
Right.
But if you have a big club fit, there's some value to getting in the opponent's way with a preemptive bid. So,
I mean, isn't this whole conversation presuming that we have at least five cards in the minor?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was and I probably should have mentioned at the very beginning, because we started off. I know I started off the scorecard article series with that too. Is what do you want to have in terms of support when you are supporting partners minor? Definitely at least 5 card support for clubs, since it might be a 3-card club opening, right? For diamonds, ideally 5, but 4 is safe. You know, if you're stuck, 4 is fine, because the opener is going to have 4 diamonds, so you are going to have that 8-card fit. But for the most part, and I think the way it's presented in the articles, and this was actually the editor's suggestion, they're like, why don't we keep this simple and just say when you're racing partners minor, you always have 5-card support, and that is probably a pretty good guideline to follow. Yes, we never want to forget about the Q-bid.
Do you mention that in your article?
The
didn't
Q-bid?
get to read the third one.
I don't. None of the articles cover interference. So, well, I mean, there may be some. I don't know. There may be some mention of it, but not at the level of detail that we've gone in today. So yeah, when the opponent's bid a suit, you always have a forcing option. That's the great thing about the Q bid. You can always force. As soon as the opponent's bid a suit, you can force. So 2 spades is, you know, it's the hand that would have made an inverted raise in clubs had they not interfered, right? Now you might also Q bid with some hands that, you know, that wouldn't be, you know, maybe it wouldn't be the perfect inverted raise. Maybe you have a balanced hand. So it can be a little different. Doesn't have to look exactly
And that
like an
denies the
inverted.
4-card major.
Yeah, should deny, because if you have 4 hearts, you should be making a negative double here, right? Don't worry. Even if you have club support, even if you could Q bid and say, hey partner, I've got a limit with club support, you still want to look for a heart fit if that's a possibility. So definitely negative double instead of Q bid if you have 4 hearts. And if you have to, you can always go back to clubs later if you don't have a heart fit, right? But what if we give you a hand, you know, that looks something like, okay, what about something like that?
Oh.
Now, let's say partner opened a club and you held that hand. and the opponents did not interfere. According to our bidding schedules that we have looked at so far today, what would you bid with that hand? I heard it from people. 3-no? Just bid 3-no, right? You get a balance 13, no 4-card major?
But you don't have a stopper in spades.
Okay, but we're talking about, to start off, the situation where the opponents didn't overcall.
Okay.
So if the opponents don't overcall a spade, I'm still bidding 3-no, even with 3 little spades. Remember what we said about no trump earlier on? They're not all gonna be perfect. And what I always like to add to that is, if you bid 3-no and partner doesn't have some help in spades, you have a lousy partner and you should get a new partner. That joke usually does better. All right. Good partners have what you need. Okay, but once they overcall, now I think you do have a legitimate concern about the suit that you hold 3 small in. And I think it would be rather careless to just bid 3-no at this point, because you now have an opponent who is known to hold spade length, at least 5 of them, for the overcall, right? So how do you bid this hand? Because we don't want you bidding no trump right now because you don't have a spade stopper. We know you want to be in game because you've got a full opener opposite an opening bid from partner.
Excuse me.
What are you supposed to do with that hand? Now, you don't have 5 clubs, but you're kind of stuck, right? So, can you treat this as a forcing hand with club support? I think so. So I would cue-bid 2 spades with that hand. And what I hope to hear from partner is 2 no trump that I can raise to 3, right? Because partner's not going to bid no trump without a spade stopper either, right? You have been tipped off to the fact that you might have a problem suit for no trump. And this might be one of those hands, actually. If partner can't bid no trump after you cue bid, you might actually not play a game. Even though it looks like you have the values, because you're so flat, unless partner, now partner could be very distributional, right? I mean, partner could be over there with like a 6-card club suit and a singleton somewhere or something like that. In which case, maybe 5 clubs would have really good play where 3-no wouldn't have any play. And that's a possibility. And if that's the case, then, partner will probably keep on bidding even if you were to, say, try to sign off at 3 clubs or something like that. On the other hand, if partner's opening is pretty balanced and they don't have a spade stopper, even with 25 high card points, if you stopped in 3 clubs, that would actually be somewhat heroic, wouldn't it? Be like, hey, we stayed out of a 3-no that had no play, or they were cashing the first 5 spade tricks on us. Whereas, maybe you play a part score. So, on occasion, the opponent's bidding, while intended perhaps to get in your way, it can actually help you. It can keep you out of bad contracts sometimes. So, I do want to break at least for a couple minutes. The one other thing that we want to mention on your inverted minors, as far as whether or not the system would be on. And I'm actually completely ambivalent about this one, so you can do what you want to do. How about this option? You open a diamond in 3rd seat, nobody else is bidding, and partner, who is already a passed hand, gives you a raise. Inverted or just regular? So one thing we know for sure, even if you treat this as an inverted raise, in other words, I guess the main question that you want to ask here is, what's the difference between 2 diamonds and 3 diamonds? Which is the better hand? The one thing we can say for sure, this is not forcing, right?
Right.
Your partner already passed. if you pass, if you deny opening values, you basically have given up your right to force, right? Because you said my hand wasn't even good enough to open. So that's the one part. So if you do play two diamonds as inverted here, then it's probably going to be what, good 10 or 11, maybe even a shapely 9. It's going to be a maximum passed hand with good diamond support, no 4-card major, right? All the normal elements of your inverted minor raise, except that it's not forcing for a round, right? It's certainly not forcing if you're over there in third seat opening a little bit light, right? So, but the main thing to ask yourself is, what's the difference between 1 diamond, 2 diamonds by a pass hand, and 1 diamond, 3 diamonds? If you want to just go back to normal methods here, I think that's fine. I mean, your opponents aren't bidding, right? It's not like it was hard for the opponents to get into your auction. So I don't know that bidding in more of a preemptive fashion and eating up space to keep the opponents out, your opponents haven't even gotten in, right? They both had opportunities to get in.
But they might take the opportunity now.
They might, yeah. And listen, yeah, if you go 1 diamond, 2 diamonds, and 2 diamonds is 6 to 9, are they going to balance? Yeah, they very well might. And maybe if you jump to 3 diamonds, that will prevent them from balancing and finding their fit. So, I can go either way on this one. I'm really not attached.
Take it in.
So, if you like, for consistency's sake, if it's easier for you to remember, let's say the 2 diamond raised by a passed hand is always better than 3, because that's what we would do if the opening had come by 1st or 2nd seat rather than 3rd or 4th seat. That's fine. So, just those, but those are the 3 things to always consider about, not just inverted minors, but any other conventional gadgets that might come up. Are they on by passed hand? Are they on over a double? Are they on over suit interference? 3 situations that would come up that I find a lot of times partnerships, they come up and somebody thinks they're making an inverted raise and the other one doesn't or something like that because they haven't discussed it. But why don't we break for a few minutes in case we need